What you saw was the world that we live in Tanzania. This school, Providence, has been a part of that work since it started. Many of you saw the pictures there. You might not have recognized one of the young men who is a teacher out there. His name is Jeff Faulkner. He was a student here at Providence also. He gave a year of his life to go out and live in a little village and to give kids at the bottom a chance to go to school. Providence has been involved in so many ways in years past here in helping to raise money for desks so that kids, when they would go to school in Africa, that they would have a desk to sit at. To raise money so that girls would get to go to school. You know, when I saw the list of students here at your school, I look around, over half of you are girls in this chapel today. In Africa, if I go into a classroom, there might be 43 kids in the room, and there will only be 4 or 5 girls. That's wrong. But there are people at this school, teachers, students, who gave money so that girls would get to go to school, because as Christian people, we believe that they also should have that opportunity. For years and years, Providence has been involved in that faraway place in making the difference in the lives of people who are at the bottom. Something wonderful happened in Tanzania this last weekend while my wife and my son and I are here in America. The 28th of September was the 14th birthday of the beginning of village schools in Tanzania. We have in Tanzania now over 12,000 students. They are the people that the United Nations would say are at the bottom, the poorest of the poor. Do you know what the students in those schools did this past Saturday? They celebrated 14 years of people making bricks and hauling stones and building schools and teachers going to those villages and teaching. And out of all of their poverty, they gave. I got the pictures of the birthday cakes that they made. I got the pictures of the soccer games they played. And they collected together almost 7 million shillings. That's almost $4,000. The poorest of the poor in villages all across that country, collecting small coins and little bits of money because they were blessed to go to school and they wanted to make sure that somebody else would get that blessing. Now, if you remember the passage that was read in Matthew this morning, that's where we find out why it is that they've done that now, why it is that Jeff, who was at this school, why he went out as a missionary to go there, why it was that people collected money for desks and for girls to go to school and to make sure that there's medicine for those who are sick. Why do people do all of that? Well, if you go to Matthew chapter 25, in verse 35, this is where Jesus is teaching, and he says this, "For I was hungry, and you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty, and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger, and you invited me in. I needed clothes, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you looked after me. I was in prison, and you came to visit me." And then it says in verse 37,
And then the righteous will answer him, Lord, when did we ever see you hungry and feed you, or thirsty and give you something to drink? When did we see you a stranger and invite you in, or needing clothes and clothe you? When did we see you sick or in prison and go to visit you? And the king will reply, I tell you the truth, whatever you did for one of the least of these brothers of mine, you did for me. That's why we do all of these things. You see, I tell my students in Africa when I'm teaching them that we know that if Jesus walked through the door today, if he came here, what would we do? We would fight over who would get to take him home, who would get to go get the bath water so he could take a bath, who would get to be able to feed him, who would be able to find out anything that he needed and we would take care of it. It would be our great joy. It would be what we would want to do. But what I tell them is that Jesus isn't going to walk through the door. But he tells us to look around and to find all of those people who are in need. And when we see them in need, we reach out of the things that he has blessed us with and we help them. And when we help them, he counts it that we've helped him. Joshua said when he was here at Providence, there was no doubt in his mind that he'd get to go to school. There aren't any of you, because we're so blessed in this country, there aren't any of you who won't get to go to school. But in the village where we live and in all the other villages around us, it was again this year in September. 4 days of national examinations, hard tests. Everyone took the tests, and they will wait all of October, all of November, all of December. They will wait until January comes to find out who gets chosen to get to go to the 8th grade. It's because there aren't enough schools. And so only a few will get chosen to go to the 8th grade, and for everybody else, they'll never, ever get to go to school again. Even if the whole world doesn't care, we're Christian people, and so we have to care. And it's our great joy that as Christian people, we get to go help those people at the bottom. We get to go and do it because it's our opportunity to show Jesus that we love him. It's not now that you can get on an airplane and go out to Africa and come teach with us. But I'm telling you about it today because you guys are going to a good school. The day's going to come when you're going to finish. The day's going to come when you're going to go to college. I want you to tuck it back in your minds. Maybe God would call you. Maybe God would call you and let you go to some village and go and help kids on the bottom so that they can get the same education that you got. We're told in Philippians that when we give, that it's a fragrant offering. It's acceptable in his sight. I pray that you will be the same as my students in Africa. They got the blessing to go to school, and they just spent this last Saturday out of their immense poverty showing God their thankfulness by giving. I pray you'll give with that same motivation. Let's pray together.